Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video here. We're going to be taking a look at Diablo 4 Season 4, the loot Reborn, and just kind of discussing where Diablo 4 is at. I'm curious if you guys are planning on checking out the new season. I'm not really sure if I will or not. I mean, I may jump in and just, see what it's like. There's no expense or anything to it, so can't hurt anything. First off, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it. It helps me out. We hit 1,000 subs recently. Now we're gonna go for 2,000. So let's go ahead and take a look here at what they've got cooked up in Season 4. A lot of new, interesting changes to the itemization. Previously, it was not in a good place. I mean, it was, a lot of the affixes on gear was like, at 2 o'clock on a Sunday you can do extra damage, and at 5 o'clock on Saturday, you can maybe do a little bit of other damage. Just very, very specific and mostly useless affixes. You could really only take advantage of like the vulnerable damage affix, and then they nerfed that, and then that kind of turned everybody off to the game, but now it looks like they're finally getting back around to potentially kind of trying to fix some of these issues that they created. So gone are all of those oddly specific damage increase mods, and now just kind of taking a look here at some of these new affixes. So we've got intelligence, we've got stats, we've got damage over time. One thing I'm curious about is the 37.5 damage. Does that also affect your damage over time? So like, will both of these stack for damage over time? This is interesting. We got a little bit. One thing I think they still need to do a change with is just what stats that the gems give you. I mean, it's still basically, it's just vulnerable damage. Like, that's the only one that's good. You're gonna put vulnerable damage in your weapons, and you're gonna put rubies in all your gear, and then maybe the diamonds in your accessories, like or skulls. I mean, there's really not a ton of things to choose from. So, here's an item with a greater affix, which is that damage. This is after it gets tempering and masterworking, which are some of the two new things in the game. So you can see this little blacksmith hammer represents what was tempered onto it. So summoning damage, 20% chance to cast Bone Spear twice. Interesting. This is a huge change. I know everyone, even when the game first launched, was asking, why was this, something like this, not already put in place? Like, why did they think that making us hoard items when there was such a limited stash space to hang on to these aspects was good game design? It just worked out horribly in practice. There was no way to sort your gear or search for anything. So that was one of the main reasons why I kind of got turned off to the game, was just the inventory management was awful. It was so tedious, and at the same time, you didn't want to just throw everything away because you could find massive upgrades, but sifting through all the junk was like a necessary chore, and it just was sucking a lot of the fun out of the game. So now the way it works is that every time you extract a power, it will go into your codex, which you can then use infinitely, and the highest power extract that you get will be the current level in your codex of power. So that's a huge change. Here we get a look at what the tempering looks like. So you have a few different things to choose from, and it's gonna add a random affix from that recipe to it. some of these you get as manuals. So here's the different options that you can get from tempering. And here is one of the recipes. So, I guess these are going to be drops. Once you learn it, then I'm assuming you can, just use it to craft onto all your gear. One thing Diablo 4 really needs to do, I mean, like, this gear set just looks absolutely trash, and this is like an end game gear set. It just looks like a starter character in an MMO. Like, it's crap. And maybe that's partly why they're selling stuff like skins in the item shop, but it's like they're already going to charge us like $100 for the expansion, and they want us to spend $50 for a decent skin. It's just mind-boggling in a way. So there's also this other system here called Masterworking. So you can upgrade it, and it's going to increase one of the affixes on the recipe, and it's going to just, it says make it massive upgrade, and it's random which affix it applies to. The first time it'll turn blue. If it gets the same affix again, it's going to be yellow, and if it gets to a third time, it's going to turn orange. So that's interesting. And I'm assuming you can only buff it like these 4 times here. So that's how I'm assuming it's going to work. They don't really show us, a picture of what the how significantly it's going to increase that one affix. But it's, we'll see. So gyms, they've made some small changes here, which is good. It's now diamonds are gonna be all resist, increase. Topaz gives increase to int, sapphire to willpower, amethyst increases strength, emeralds increase dexterity. So that's throwback to Diablo 2. It may have worked that way in Diablo 3, but like, who cares about Diablo 3? It was awful. I mean, it got a little better, but over time, but when it starts out as garbage, there's only so much you can improve upon it. We've got some interesting changes here to Helltide. It sounds like Helltides are going to be a lot better than what they were in the past, and you now have access to them starting in World Tier 1, which is great. Should make leveling up through the early game much quicker. Like, who wants to spend a lot of time leveling up? Andariel's back. She's going to be a boss. And there's this pit of artificers. You can fight with the Iron Wolves. If you don't know who they are, they're like the sorcerer from Diablo 1. And then in Diablo 2, they were the sorcerer mercenaries in Act 3. So then we've got all their battle pass stuff here. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, just a rough breakdown of what's coming in the next season. I have not watched the most recent developer stream, but, it's not really what, I wanted to really hit upon after kind of just going through, like, the basic changes. What I am mostly looking at now is Diablo 4, is this going to be enough to revitalize Diablo 4? Is it gonna make the game fun? I think one of the main issues that Diablo 4 has, like the loot, and the gearing was not good, but the main thing that I think was the problem is like the actual skill trees. I think those need a significant change to really get it on par with some of the other games that are out there now, like Path of Exile, PoE 2. I mean, PoE 2 got pushed back a little bit, unfortunately, but you've got Last Epoch, even No Rest for the Wicked. While there's no like skill tree, just the game feels like really good to play, and just the way that you build your character and the gearing in it feels more thought out and works better in practice than Diablo 4 as far as like the minimalistic skill tree and the gearing. I mean, the gearing is basically just like, you know, the affix is, it's like more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage. You know, it's not interesting. But like, if damage is the only stat that you're going to put on gear, why is it even there in the first place? Like, why not just remove that and have the weapon damage be like the only stat that matters, or apply, you know, the skills to the damage, like have it how it was in Diablo 2, where spells and abilities, they just leveled up and had their damage like as a flat fixed amount, and really the only way to increase the damage was to get plus skill items, or, you know, I think there's a few things that give you like bonus elemental damage. But I don't know if the changes, although the changes are good and it's going to be better than what it was, I just don't know if it's going to really fix like the core issue and make the loot interesting. It looks like it will be a little more interesting than it was, but, you know, I don't know if it's going to quite be enough to really make it interesting enough that people are going to come back and play the game and, you know, continue playing the game. I think it's definitely going to get an influx of players to come back and check it out, but I mean, the last few times I've tried to go back and play a Diablo 4 season, I lost interest within like a week or two. And usually, like on a Path of Exile season, I'll stay interested and engaged, you know, almost the entire 3 months, depending on if I'm playing hardcore or softcore. If it's hardcore, I'll play, you know, until I get a high level character, and then I rip and, you know, don't have the time or the interest or desire to start another high level or start another character to get to the end game. On the last season I played was really the first season I played in PoE or League that I played softcore and not hardcore, and even that I stayed, you know, logging in regularly, consistently, you know, many times a week, maybe not every day, but almost daily, for pretty much the entire duration of the league. Like, I think around the last three weeks or so of the league was around the time when I sort of stopped logging in. So, I mean, I'm thinking I'll probably check it out, and, you know, we'll see how it is, but it's just, even if the gear is better, I don't know of like any other builds, that if there's any new builds or anything. I mean, if there's no new builds, then it's like, you know, I could play Diablo 2 and probably have more fun. The builds are more interesting, you know, if there's no new experimentation, and there is, you know, nothing for me to try to create something powerful, and I'm just playing a build that I've already played, or that's, you know, not a new experience. I don't know how much interest I'll have, you know, in the game, because I've already kind of played like Barbarian. Just in Diablo 4, Barbarian just is not, you know, the class fantasy that I want it to be, and Druid was one of the most fun classes I played, and even that was like, after I did it once, I wasn't really interested in doing it again. I think I played like 2 different Druid builds, and the first build I played, you know, like the trample slide, it was just so strong at launch. Everything else now just kind of was like, feels like I'm playing just a gimped version of that. And Barbarian like has nowhere near the AoE or like the clear speed or just the awesome like visuals. You know, you're just like standing there swinging over and over, and then, you know, you get to do another move or two here and there. It's not the smashing, like bloodthirsty, like berserk warrior that I want it to be. So a little bit of a, you know, disappointment with it. And the other classes, like, I don't really know if I have any desire to play them. You know, occasionally I like playing a caster, but the casters in this just don't really seem as you know, as fun as like they were in Diablo 2. So that's kind of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys are thinking on Diablo 4. Like, are you gonna check it out? Is it worth checking out, do you think? I'm interested to hear. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And remember to give them the D.